Greetings my lovelies, and thank you for stopping by this circle today. This week's video is one that I know that as writers we all fucking struggle with, and I don't know why I haven't talked about this concept before. Oh my god, I am so sorry I have failed you as your authortuber person. Today we're going to talk about word counts and how to get them down. So let's go. Now the reason why you'll hear writers and authors and so on and so forth talking about word counts more than pages is because there's a big difference between word count and page count. As a reader, we only focus on the pages because that's the final product that we have, but for authors, most of us write in some type of either computerized document or legal pad, and yes, there are some people who do that, and power to them. So that is typically an 8 by 11 page. We're not buying books that are sized 8 by 11. The most common sizes in the industry are 5 by 8s, 5/4, 5 to 8/4, or 6 by 9. Those are like the main three formats that vast majority of books are going to be sold for. So when you take those 8 by 11 pages and then you conform them down to the size of whatever it is book that you're going to make, the page number will change. 7 pages and an 8 by 11, depending on how you reformat your book, could end up being like 14 pages. You can almost nearly double it depending on how you have everything set up. So that's why authors tend to focus more on word count than we do page count. And we really won't even acknowledge our page count until our book is out there in the world. Now the different numbers in the different word count numbers are also associated to like different types of like storytelling. So for our first category, we have our short, and these are typically running through 15,000 to 30,000 words. These are very, very short. Think kind of like flash fiction, really easy summaries you can get through in probably a couple of hours. Then we have novellas, which are typically tends to be companions to full-fledged novels, and they are 30,000 to 50,000 words. So they're larger than short stories, but not quite as large as the industry standard for full-length novels, because full-length novels run 50,000 words and upwards. Like, I'm just gonna say upwards, because honestly, like, some of these books are like 1,000 pages long. I don't even want to think about what their word count is, because that shit be crazy. Even genres kind of have their own industry standards when it comes to word counts, given like the age of the people who are reading it and like content material. For adult fictions, primarily like sci-fi, fantasy, romance, blah 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 blah, they typically run between 70,000 words and up. For your young adult fiction novels, again with those same varying genres, between 50 and 80,000 words. Now that's not saying that you can't have a massive young adult book, but it'll be outside the standard norms, and given their demographic is typically kids from like, I don't know, 13 to like 17, 18 time frame, like the amount of time that they may be willing to sit to read a book that long is not the same as an adult, but some kids are vivacious readers. Like I said, these are just generalized norms. And then we have juvenile, which is the like middle school fiction, that type of thing, and that is at 25,000 to 40,000 words. Again, can fluctuate, but so on and so forth. And of course, the younger you go, the less words they are. So we get down to babies and it's like, 10 words. So why am I telling you all this? Because knowing what type of book you're writing, whether it's a novella, short story, full-length novel, and the genre that you're writing in, can give you an idea as a goal as to how big your story needs to be. Now, as long as your story tells a complete story from beginning to end, in all honesty, it really doesn't fucking matter, except for in its classification. That's why we have those numbers for novellas, novels, short stories, etc. And you can't charge the same amount of money for a short story as you would a full-length novel. That's typically why most people try to go for 50,000, because that is the minimum of what a full-length novel is usually accepted as. Looking at you, Camp NaNoWriMo. Well, not the camp part, but the normal one. You know what I'm saying. But getting those words down on the paper after everything else, you know, between developing your characters and your world and your plot, and now you have to sit down and actually fucking write, and you want to have so many words written within such a bit of a time frame so that your book can be released at a certain amount of times, you know, blah, 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 the whole fucking process. For more in-depth details, please check the link above for my entire writing process segment, lesson plan thingy. Perfect example of this would be the NaNoWriMo, or National Writing Month, that happens in November. It is, we make a pledge to try to fit down 50,000 words, the length of a full-fledged novel, in 30 days. That roughly breaks down to 1,667 words a day to meet that deadline. And writers have nothing if we don't have our deadlines, because then nothing will get fucking finished. So how do you figure out your daily word count that you're supposed to put down? Well, it's really fucking simple. How big do you intend for your book to be? Are you just going for the 50,000, or are you trying to go for something loftier like 90 to 100,000? Let's say you pick 100,000. Nice round number, easy squeezy lemon peasy. And which tends to be about what most people are kind of averaging at writing wise. So let's say you want to have a 100,000 word novel written in 4 months. So how many words do you need to write a day in order to meet that goal? It's simple. It's basic math. Take your 40,000, good lord. Take your 100,000 and divide it by 120, because that's how many days there are in that 4 months, and that'll give you your number. And that is, let me get my calculator. Yep, let me go ahead and just get my handy dandy calculator going. I feel like Steve from Blue's Clues. So we said 100,000 words, and you're dividing that up by 120 days. So it comes out to 833. That means that on average you should put down 833 words a day in order to have your book finished in the time frame that you set. Does this happen? No. We struggle a lot. Sometimes we put down more, sometimes we put down less. But here are some tips that I have to help you put down your word counts and stay on track. Number 1, and this is the most important in my book, don't wait for the right time to write, because it doesn't fucking exist. If you wait for either inspiration or the right time to write, you'll never fucking write anything. And any writer out there will fucking agree with me. Dear Lord or Almighty above. You just have to sit down and fucking do it. Whether it sucks, you're depressed, obviously if you're not on your if you're on your deathbed or sick, then by all means, give yourself a fucking break. But if you can sit down and write, fucking sit down and write. Number 2, schedule time to write. This again kind of feeds into the first thing, where there is no good time to write. You just need to fucking do it. But if you have a crazy day, finding the time to write might also be a little bit of a tricky. So look at your day and just schedule time. I work as a teacher, and so I write in between all of that shit. So most of my writing done in the school year is done on the weekends or holiday breaks. Now during the summer, I do a typical full day of writing. So that's like from 8 to 7. But the point that I'm trying to get at is, if you schedule a time for yourself to write, even if it's just an hour before you go to bed or in between times on your lunch break, it's still consistency. And consistency is key, my friends, because the more you do something, the better you get at doing it, and the same goes with writing. It is a natural law of the universe. Number 3, don't agonize about perfect words. Because again, like the perfect time to write, there's no such thing as a perfect fucking word. Just throw something down and fucking go. Don't stop the flow. Even if you're not 100% happy with something that you've put down, just fucking leave it. Tag it, mark it. If you're doing it on like Google Docs or something to that effect, you can like tag yourself a comment as to why you hated it, so when you go back to do your revisions and your edits, which you should be doing, you can fix it then at a later date. You don't want to impede yourself. You just, once that ball gets rolling, fucking roll with it. Hit that bump and keep going. On a similar trend, pigging back off of that, if you find yourself just freezing up about the words, do some word sprints. I love these things, and I typically do them a lot with my students when it comes to the writing club or the writing camps that we do, because kids will agonize over every last word that they put down on paper, and so I make it a race and a contest. Writing sprints are a wonderful tool that you can use to help really drop down some words and goof off on the internet at the same time. So you set a timer for about 15 to 20 minutes, maybe 30 tops, and then you don't even think about anything else, and you just bulldoze through those words until that timer goes off. And then once that timer goes off, you can take a break, get on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is these kids are on these days, and BS for like another 10 minutes, and then come back and keep doing that. Now, if you have writing friends, 1, lucky you. 2, you guys can compete against each other to see who can get the most words down in the same amount of time. You're worried less about what you're putting down on paper, you're just getting it out. And for a first draft, that's all you need to do. Number 5, change up your space. Sometimes we can get in a funk. Sometimes we're tired of being stuck around the same fucking 4 walls. And I know everybody out there in the interweb is thinking about the stereotypical authors are writing in a coffee shop. Yeah, we do that shit. You want to know why? Because it's a different space. There's different energy going on around us. And for some of us, having chaos helps us focus better. It's not that we're pretentious. I mean, some of us may be. I mean, I'm not going to deny that factor. But for the most part, it's just to change things up in our life. Especially if we're experiencing really bad writer's block or a writing rut where we just absolutely hate everything. So, go write in a coffee shop. Go write in a bookstore. Go right out at the fucking park until your computer dies. Change it up and see what happens. Number 6. Cut off the rest of the world. One of the best little tricks that I have found that has really helped me get down some serious word counts is headphones. I always listen to music while I'm writing. It helps me focus. I don't know what and why, but it's like I listen to it, I can tune it out, and then like I'm just shook on what it is that I'm doing. But lately it hasn't really been kind of like hitting the same way, if you know what I mean. So I started using headphones. Just thinking maybe that one little extra bit would be better. Because then Dimitri would also complain that it was too loud and he could hear the bass downstairs, so I was like, my bad. There's a limit as to how high I could turn up the volume. And I listen to like video game soundtracks and movie soundtracks, and they got some deep bass. But anyways, I'm rambling. The headphones completely disconnect me from the world, to where there's nothing exists but me and the words that I'm putting down on the page. And it has gotten so much easier to hit that 1,000 mark, that 2,000 mark, that 3,000 mark in a few hours than it ever did just listening to it normally through speakers. Plus my speakers are kind of going on my sound system, so it's like a win-win-win-win situation. But this doesn't have to be headphones for you. Just find something that cuts you off from everything else. Close your door with a sign on that says "Do not enter." Turn off your phone. Throw your phone into another room so you can't be distracted by the internet. Really don't open up the web browser unless you absolutely have to. Number 7. Don't beat yourself up when you don't reach your word count. It happens. It's life. There are going to be days that you have meetings, that you're sick, that you just don't feel so good, something happened, a hurricane, you lose power, it happens, okay? It happens to all of us. There's just days that our word counts suck. We might get 35 words down, or 100. It happens. Don't feel like shit when it does, okay? Just be like, alright, I'll just have to make it up a little extra each day. And number 8. Sorry, 8. Try to keep your writing routine, whatever it is, however you do things, like a typical 9-to-5 job. Because writing as an author is your job, so you need to treat it as such. Between scheduling and trying to hit your quota for the day, giving it the best that you can in that given moment, but also don't forget to leave yourself time to have fun and breathe and relax. Because when you're stressed out, you can't really write. Now these are just the tips and tricks that I have found that have helped me really fucking kill my word counts, my daily word counts. And if you have any that I have not talked about here, please drop them down below so that we can communicate and help each other out. Because that's what this channel is all about. Helping other authors and writers achieve their goals. So that is all that I have for you. I will see you all next time. Bye!